Hi, boys and girls, and welcome to another edition of Snack Time with a dollop of Read Aloud. Well, we're going to continue with our reading of Number the Stars by Lois Lowry with permission granted by Houghton Mifflin Publishing for me to be able to share this book with you. One of my all-time faves, as I said, I'm sure, many times. But when we last left the girls, we discovered that they were now in a different setting. Out of Copenhagen, they were now in Kielce, which Mrs. Willis, I already warned you that I would probably be killing all of these Nordic words, but they're in a new location, like a country location. They're further away. So Copenhagen's the city. Kielce is kind of like the country. So lots of fields, lots of farmlands, some mountains. They're near the ocean, so they can see Sweden as they get close to the fishing docks and all of that. But the girls have a sense of being safe. And when we last were reading, Mama had told the girls something. She had told the girls, do not talk to any strangers. Now, when she said that, the girls kind of were confused. Why would there be strangers? Why wouldn't they be able to talk to people? And that's when Mama had to give them the news that there was danger everywhere. And that danger comes in the form of Nazi soldiers. So, and you never really know who to trust, who is watching, who is listening. So now the girls went from being very calm and thinking all is good to now thinking, uh-oh, maybe they aren't as safe as they thought they were. So as we're reading, I want you to keep that question in mind. Why is it so dangerous for the girls? What could happen? What could be the worst case scenario of things that could happen? Try and keep that in mind. That is how the author is building some tension. So yes, we think everything's wonderful and lovely, and then Mama says that thing where, says that comment where, be careful who you talk to, and if you see anyone, go inside. As soon as she says that, that kind of flips the switch with the girls, like maybe they aren't as, safe and as sheltered as they thought they were. So keep that in mind, because now remember Mrs. Willis said, like on the story arc, we're at the rising part. We're still in the rising action. So as you know, with rising action, things continually get a little bit more difficult for the main characters until you get to the climax where the volcano explodes, if you're thinking of the mountain. So we're getting closer to the climax, but we're not quite there yet. Okay, here we go. Chapter 8, there has been a death. Dun dun dun. Through a haze of dreams, Annemarie heard Heinrich rise and leave the house, headed for the barn with his milking pail at daybreak. Later, when she woke again, it was morning. She could hear birds calling outside, one of them close by the window in the apple tree. She could hear Mama below, in the kitchen, talking to Kirsty. Ellen was still asleep. The night before, so shortened by soldiers in the Copenhagen apartment, seemed so long ago. Annemarie rose quietly so that she wouldn't wake her friend. She pulled on her clothes and went down the narrow, curved staircase to find her sister kneeling on the kitchen floor, trying to make the little gray kitten drink out of a bowl, or drink water from a bowl. Silly, she said. Kittens like silly, kittens like milk, not water. I'm teaching this new one new habits, Kirsty explained importantly, and I have named him Thor, for the god of thunder. Annemarie burst out laughing. She looked at the tiny kitten who was shaking his head irritably with his wet whiskers as Kirsty kept trying to dip his face into the bowl. God of thunder, Annemarie said. He looks like he would run and hide if there was a thunderstorm. He has a mother someplace who would comfort him, I imagine, Mama said. And when he wants milk, he'll find his mama. Or he could go visit the cow, Kirsty answered. Although Uncle Heinrich no longer raised crops on his farm as his parents did, he still kept a cow who munched happily on the meadow grass and gave a little milk each day in return. Now and then he was able to send cheese into Copenhagen to his sister's family. This morning, Annemarie noticed with delight a pitcher of cream on the table. It was a very long time since she had tasted cream. At home, they had bread and tea every morning. Mama followed Annemarie's eyes to the pitcher. "Fresh from Blossom," she said. "Heinrich milks her every morning before he leaves for the boat." And she added, "There's butter, too." Usually, not even Uncle Heinrich has butter, but he managed to save a little for us just this time. Remember, guys, it might not seem like a big deal to have cream and to have butter, but remember, all of those necessities or those everyday things like leather for shoes or milk and sugar, butter, all of those things have now been rationed and are very hard to find because all of those supplies are now going to the troops. So as a result, when you can find it, it's like finding gold. Woo, exciting. "Save a little from what?" Annemarie asked, spooning oatmeal into a floured bowl. "Don't tell me the soldiers try to, what's the word? Relocate butter too." She laughed at her own joke, but it wasn't a joke at all, though Mama laughed ruefully, which means she kind of laughed seriously. "They do," she said. "They relocate all of the farmers' butter right into the stomachs of their army. I suppose that if they knew Heinrich had kept this tiny little bit, they would come with guns and march away with it down the path." Kirsty joined their laughter as the three of them pictured a mound of frightened butter among or under military arrest. The kitten darted away when Kirsty's attention was distracted and settled on the windowsill. Suddenly, here in this sunlit kitchen, with cream in a pitcher and bird in the apple tree beside the door, and out in Kattegat, where Uncle Heinrich, surrounded by the bright blue sky and water, pulled in his nets filled with shiny silver fish. Suddenly, the specter of guns and grim-faced soldiers seemed nothing more than a ghost story, a joke with which to frighten children in the dark. Again, that's where they kind of feel like they're away from everything. They feel safe. There isn't really anything to worry about. But still, that ghost of danger kind of lurks. Ellen appeared in the kitchen doorway, smiling sleepily, rubbing her eyes, and Mama pulled another floured bowl of steaming oatmeal, put another floured bowl of steaming oatmeal on the wooden table. "Cream," Annemarie said, gesturing to the pitcher with a grin. All day long, the girls played out of doors under the brilliant sky and sun. Annemarie took Ellen to the small pasture beyond the barn and introduced her to Blossom, who gave a lazy, rough-textured lick to the palm of Ellen's hand when she extended it timidly. The kitten scampered about and chased flying insects across the meadow. The girls picked armfuls of wildflowers, dried brown now by the early fall chill, and arranged them in pots and pitchers under the table tops that were crowded with bouquets. Inside the house, Mama scrubbed and dusted, tisking at Uncle Heinrich's untidy housekeeping. She took rugs out to the clothesline and beat them with a stick, scattering the dust into an air. "He needs a wife," she said, shaking her head as she attacked the old wooden floors with a broom while the rugs still aired. "Just look at this," she said, opening the door to the little used formal living room with its old-fashioned furniture. "He never dusts." And she picked up another cleaning rag. "And Kirsty," she said, "the god of thunder, made a very small rain shower in the corner of the kitchen. Please keep an eye on him." Later in the afternoon, Uncle Heinrich came home. He grinned when he saw the newly cleaned and polished house, the double doors to the living room wide open, the rugs aired, and the windows washed. "Heinrich, you need a wife," Mama scolded him. Uncle Heinrich laughed and joined Mama on the steps near the kitchen door. "Why do I need a wife when I have a sister?" he asked in a booming voice. Mama sighed, but her eyes were twinkling. "And you need to stay home more often to take care of the house. This step is broken, and there's a leaky faucet in the kitchen, and Heinrich was grinning at her and shaking his head in mock dismay. And there are mice in the attic, and my brown sweater has a big moth hole on the sleeve, and if I don't wash the windows soon. They laughed together. Anyway, Mama said, I have opened every window, Heinrich, to let the air in and the sunshine. Thank goodness, it's such a beautiful day. Tomorrow will be a day for fishing, Heinrich said, his smile disappearing. Annemarie, listening, recognized the old phrase. Remember the phrase that Papa said, is it a good day for fishing? Well, that's coming back into play. Remember, Annemarie had said that statement. It's almost as if they're talking in code. Keep that in mind. Annemarie, listening, recognized the old phrase. Papa had said something like that on the telephone. Is the weather good for fishing, Heinrich? Papa had asked. But what did it mean? Heinrich went fishing every day, whether it rained or shined. Denmark fishermen didn't wait for sunny days to take their boats out and throw out their nets into the sea. Annemarie, silent, sitting with Ellen under the tree, watched her uncle. Mama looked at him. The weather is right, she asked. Heinrich nodded and looked at the sky. He smelled the air. I will be going back to the boat tonight after supper. We will leave very early in the morning, and I will stay on the boat all night. Annemarie wondered what it would be like to be on a boat all night, to lie at anchor, hearing the sea slap against the sides of the boat, to see the stars from any place on the sea, or from your place on the sea. You have prepared the living room? Uncle Heinrich asked suddenly. Mama nodded. It is cleaned, and I have moved the furniture a bit to make room. And you saw the flowers, she added. I hadn't thought of it, but the girls, they're wonderful. They picked dried flowers from the meadow. Prepare the living room for what? Annemarie asked. Why did you move furniture about? Mama looked at Uncle Heinrich. He had reached down for the kitten scampering past and now held it against his chest and scratched his chin gently. It arched its small back with pleasure. Well, girls, he said, it's a very sad event. But not too sad, really, because she was very, very old. There has been a death. And tonight, your Great-aunt Birte will be resting in the living room in her casket before she is buried tomorrow. It is the old custom, you know, for the dead to rest at home and their loved ones to be with them before their burial. Kirsty was listening with a fascinated look. Right here? There'll be a dead person right here? Annemarie said nothing. She was confused. This was the first she had ever heard, or she had heard about a death in the family. No one had called Copenhagen to say that there had been a death, and truthfully, no one seems sad. And most puzzling of all, she had never heard this name before. Great-aunt Birte. Surely she would have known if she had had a relative by that name. Kirsty might not. Kirsty's little and didn't really pay attention to such things. But Annemarie, she had always been fascinated by her mother's stories of her own childhood. She remembered the names of all the cousins and the great aunts and the uncles who had been a tease, who had been a grouch, who would scold you for no reason, or who would scold you because they didn't like the way you kept your house, though they continued to have dinner there with you every single night. Such wonderful, interesting stories filled the colorful personalities of her mother's family, and she remembered every one. And Annemarie was quite certain, though she had said nothing, that in truth there was no Great-aunt Birte. She simply did not exist. So, if Annemarie can't recall Great-aunt Birte, is it possible that maybe she did forget? Or, thinking back to earlier in this chapter, is this another code?